Yes, hello, I'm Cameron, so I'm from Swansea, the Fit Lab in Swansea University. This work was done with my colleagues at the Fit Lab, and it was also some of it was supported by the chemistry department in Swansea too. So colour is a very important aspect of our lives. We see it everywhere, and it's a very important aspect of painters. It's how they can bring life to their paintings, how they can use it to invoke emotion in people. And it's a very carefully considered process. And what we're interested in is how do we actually interact with colours, specifically how artists interact with colours, to actually pick and mix colours in order to put it into their paintings, be they physical or digital. And yesterday again I had a chance to wander around Barcelona, visiting the Sangre-Via, I think that's it. We saw that there was artists there that obviously did the paintings of all the stained glass, and there was obviously an exhibit dedicated to some of the artists and showing how careful they were in how they mixed and selected their colours for the stained glass. So how we interact a lot with digital colour tends to be on sliders or with swatches or using simple colour wheels. A lot of these tools are taken from, say, Adobe Photoshop. And obviously with mobile technology, with the iPad Pro, a lot of artists now take their whole art studio on the go with them. But we were thinking about how tangible is this experience, and there's still like a lot of, say, clicking and sliding, or not a lot of focus on maybe how traditional artists would work with kind of the feel of paint or the feel of the different textures that an artist would interact with. And what we can see from the related work that is innovated in a lot of these artist tools is that there hasn't been a lot of focus on sort of the texture and stuff, and there's been a lot of innovation in the stylus, but maybe there needs to be more focus on how the colours are actually mixed. So we saw a gap to explore, and we wanted to find out how we could actually improve the colour picking experience. So we set about to engage with people that do traditional art, so people that would use paints and paintbrushes, and some of the digital artists as well that are using some of the more modern techniques, and try to create a new type of interface which tries to emulate the textures of paint using different chemicals that we developed in the lab, and pair that with mobile technology for a mixing palette that you can take on the go and use with a canvas. So first of all, we went to visit these painters at different art classes. We worked with 7 different artists that all were kind of semi-professional, did commission work, sold in different shops around the area. And we conducted interviews and discussions with about how they worked, what they enjoyed about their art, say why they hadn't switched over to, say, traditional techniques. And we sort of analysed and went through all this information that we collected and tried to make sense of how traditional techniques were conducted and how they could influence more modern techniques. And so some of the things we noticed was the different paints had different feels. So the acrylics, oils and water-based paints had different sensations that they enjoyed using, and different ones could allow them to have different effects and different mixes. They showed us the different brushes and how the brushes played a certain role in how they were able to mix the colours and get different effects. We also observed how they would keep all their sort of mixing of paints separate to the actual canvas where they were working, and how they would almost keep this as a kind of smear of history of where they were shading the different colours together, and how when they mixed it they were able to, say, drag some white and some blue, but leave it there and kind of have different colours as they go along. And they also kind of gave us a sense that they really enjoyed the mixing part as much as putting it on the canvas. They enjoyed collecting the different colours, showing each other the different colours, and it was almost a skill in itself, just finding the colours before they even made these beautiful creations when they hit the canvas. Overall, we saw that it was a very, very tangible experience, and you could really get like a hands-on sensation with the different paints. When we spoke to the digital artist, he had a background in traditional art. He'd been an art teacher. He'd used paints beforehand, but now a lot of his work, he's done a lot of commission work for big budget films and doing concept art, so he's kind of switched over to a lot of the digital techniques. But he really misses the tangible element of actually physically working and actually bringing out his paints and using some of the more traditional techniques. But overall, he finds that there's a lot of benefits in digital because it's replicable, you can zoom in and out very easily on the canvas, and you can erase and stuff like that. So that's kind of why he's been drawn to digital, but he still very much misses these tangible techniques. So we wanted to see that how could we emulate these tangible experiences on some kind of mixing and display. And so we aimed to build a prototype that could have these textured sensations, so that could support stirring and mixing paint on a screen, and kind of have that separation of kind of color mixing before going on to the canvas. So with the chemistry department, we developed this gel called hydrogel, and it has been seen before and it's been explored in the chemistry space, and there has been a whisk paper on it before that has used it for dynamic buttons. But we wanted to see if we could actually use it for paint and actually emulate the different oils and acrylics and waters that we saw when we visited the artists. Here you can see that when you heat the gel, it turns into a more solid, rigid texture, and then as you cool it down, then it softens, much like what we saw with the paints when they were being mixed by the artists. So we went ahead then to build a prototype where we could sit the gel on top of a bunch of heat pads, so we could then actively heat the pad to get it hard, to emulate where the paint was, and then soften it then as the artist actually mixed the gel, simulating the paint sensation. You can see here that the paint goes from the hard to the soft state. So when we heat it up, it's in this kind of white state here, and then as we cool it down, then it starts to fade away and it starts to feel softer. If you want to get a feeling for how it feels, if you take your hand and you grab one of your fingers with your thumb and feel the pad just below your thumb, and you move it along your fingers, that sensation of it going hard to soft gives you a rough feeling of how it is. So the prototype is made up of, at the top we have a layer of film to obviously protect the users from the gel. Underneath that then we actually have the gel, which sits on top of a touch sensor, so we can pick up all the information of where their fingers actually are on the screen. Underneath that then we have the heating and cooling system that can switch between heating and cooling, and underneath that then we have to have a heat sink in order to dissipate the heat, because the more we dissipate the heat, the cooler we can make the system, so we can make the paint thin out faster or slower if needs be. Here's the final prototype. As you can see, the heatsink is quite big, but it's important to get the effect. And then the phone sits on the front, so the actual fingers sit on the back where you feel the mixing, and then on the front then there's our phone app that has the different colours on it. Here I'll show you a video of it working. So on the bottom is where the actual paint pad is, and as you stir it around, you start to feel it sort of smush out and kind of feel like you're spreading paint on the canvas. And on the front there you saw the actual paint being thinned out. So after we built this, we returned to the artist to kind of essentially see if we were able to actually emulate what they felt when they were interacting with their traditional paints, to see if we were able to emulate it. We conducted the sessions during the breaks, and most of the artists were the same. So 5 of the artists from the original 7 were there to use the device. What we heard from them was that they were impressed that we were able to emulate some of the oil and acrylic sensations. Mainly the oil paints, they thought it felt like it didn't feel like the water paints at all. It was kind of still too rigid, but it felt more like a watered down acrylic when it was in its softest state, but definitely like when they were thinning out an oil, because they were saying as you stir an oil more, it kind of goes a lot softer, and that's kind of how it felt. Another thing was they said that they liked how the blobber paint started initially, because that's kind of how they would like originally squeeze things out from their tube, and it would start off quite thick. It helped them find where it was on the back of the screen, and was able to grab and thin that out. And of course, overall, they enjoyed the experience and found it very fun to use. So in conclusion, our findings highlighted the role that tangibility can play in art, especially in traditional art, and how we could bring that into digital applications. Our prototype is beginning to facilitate some of these types of interactions using these chemicals to emulate some of the more nuanced elements of real life. And the feedback shows that it's potentially showing elements of oil paints and some acrylic paints. And future work, we want to actually build a more robust prototype that we could leave with the artists to see how we could support their work and see if they can actually do things with it that either are similar to what they currently do or maybe things that they previously weren't able to do. So thank you for listening. I'd like to invite any questions, and you can keep in touch with me at my website or on Twitter and Instagram. So, thank you.
Thanks very much for such an interesting presentation, acrylic. I have two questions. First one is, so you are exploring mixing paints, restoring the tangibility of mixing paint, right? Are you considering exploring also for the act of painting itself?
As in what actually happens on the canvas?
Yes.
We were specifically looking at the palette element, so if I go back, we were very inspired by these sort of, where they have like all their colours spread out on and that kind of individual kind of experience. So yeah, we were focused more on the palette and the actual mixing and the making of the colours and how that process works rather than sort of the canvas element. So.
And the second was, like, I also experimented with the hydrogel at some point.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that I noticed is that going back to the solid state or the more rigid state would take some time.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a problem for you, or you were only going in the opposite direction most of the time?
Yeah, we were going sort of in one direction, but I found that, I don't know how much you know about the chemistry, so we were adding more of the ammonium sulfate, and that kind of started in a slightly thicker state. So when I added more of that, and I had like a couple of different dishes, I found the one that had slightly more of that kind of chemical in it, I was able to keep that up a lot quicker. So yeah, I can, if you keep in contact, I can send you some stuff about it that I found out. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. That was really interesting. As far as I understood it, like the touching you do on the back of the phone, right? I mean, of course, it's like due to technical limitations, I guess. But can you consider any way that you really get that, like on top of the screen? You know what I mean? That you really have more of the original feeling. Yeah,
it would be awesome to get it onto the front of the screen. So obviously, at the moment, you saw that it would obscure the screen when it goes white. So yeah, it would be great in future work to kind of get it on the screen. Or of course, like obviously quite inspired by the previous source with VR and AR, you could just maybe hopefully overlay something on the gel, which could be quite interesting as future work. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Did you maybe get any comments from the artists about potential use cases for later, like to be used for teaching younger generations, for teaching new artists, for testing ideas, or for something completely that you did not expect?
Yeah, so actually something that one of the artists did say was that they would be more likely to give them to their granddaughter because she always wants to play with her paints, but obviously every time you get the paints out, they might mess up the carpet or something like that. So she said that she obviously always wants to involve her granddaughter, but sometimes it can be quite a messy process. So yeah, it could be used, certainly for teaching. I know the digital artist that we spoke to was a teacher previously, and how he would teach the sort of colour process was that he would show all the different shades and kind of mark out the palette beforehand and kind of show them how colours interact, how different shades will come together from different shadows. So it could potentially be used for that as well. But, yeah.
Great, thank you, Cameron.
No worries.